All right, welcome to the Knacker Golfers podcast. It's Thursday morning of Ryder Cup week, and I haven't really paid attention to the Ryder Cup, mostly, not at all, because I'm really kind of tired of there always being like a team event at the end of the year. I kind of wish that the U.S. team would get a break and allow the international and the European team to play together, and that's never happened before. I don't know what the Solheim Cup is, but I don't know if just the whole Cup thing. There's the Walker Cup that happened a few weeks ago at Cypress Point, which is full of amateurs, but it doesn't really mean anything to me. It's just a big fan experience. It's gotten to be so huge that it's anticipated that Bethpage is just going to be a raucous deal. Like Whistling Straits. Whistling Straits was just like shot out of a cannon kind of a thing, where all these people that came out to Whistling Straits in Wisconsin, and they just let everything out. They just let it all out. They just were. So what I did last night is I watched the Ryder Cup sort of, I don't know what you want to call it, like a highlight reel, or not a highlight reel, but kind of a review video that was on YouTube. It was from 1993, and 1993 was a pivotal year in my life, just because that was the year that I became really, really fascinated with golf, and it was held at the Belfry, and that year it was a Tom Watson captain. Tom Watson was the captain, and it was really great because the United States sort of came from behind to win. And then, you had guys on the team that was just like, they're all legends, You got Couples and Azinger and Kane Stewart, Tom Kite, and Lee Jansen, and Davis Love III, and Lanny Watkins, and I met Jim Gallagher Jr. a few weeks ago. He was on that team. I can't think of anybody. I don't know. Oh, Corey Pavin was on it. And oh my God, those guys were just lights out brilliant. They were all awesome. But the venue that they selected, it's meant. I'm thinking the course and the conditioning of the course was meant to have really great scoring, and just like, having easy. There were some holes that were difficult, like the 10th hole and the 18th hole, which came down to be, big deal holes and deciding holes. And then on the European team, you had Nick Faldo, Seve Ballesteros, Jose Maria Olazabal, this Joaquin Hagman and Barry Lane and Peter Baker. Not the Peter Baker that was R2D2, but he's a golfer. And there's, who else am I missing? Colin Montgomery was on it, and that sort of thing. It was really something. The equipment that these guys were using was just fascinating to me. You had three guys on the European team that were all using the Brilliant Copper Ping V60 putter. And John Cook was on the American team too. It was really something. So you got the raucous. It's very rare to have the Ryder Cup in England like they had it then. All the other times they've had it in warmer climates. Like I don't know if you want to call France a warmer climate, but they've had it in Spain. Last time it was held in Rome. Uh, and Rome is, from what I've heard, can be really hot. But I mean, it was really something to watch that. You had, and then all the pageantry that happens beforehand, like the opening ceremonies, they make it like the Olympics and stuff like that, and everybody's got the same outfit. I thought it was really arrogant. I always thought that if you play golf without a hat on in like a team competition, that must mean that you think really highly of yourself. And it's like, why wear a hat when you can just walk out there with no hat on and play your round of golf? I mean, I just never understood that concept, being able to play golf without a hat on. And that whole thing with Patrick Cantlay that contributed to him to the team losing last year, he didn't wear a hat because the hats they provided were not big enough for his big head or whatever. Whatever. Can you give Patrick Cantlay a hat to maybe speed him up a little bit? Can't play fast enough with a hat. I don't know. Just one of those things that's really annoying. And one of the things is if they're showing Patrick Cantlay all day, I'm not watching. Anyway, so NBC covered the Ryder Cup in '93, and they put this thing together, and Jim Lampley was doing the commentary and the play-by-play of this video, after it happened kind of thing. And that was at a time when ABC was the king of broadcasting golf back then in '93, because they did the U.S. Open and they did the British Open. And just think of that year, because it's the year of '93, you had Greg Norman win the British Open, and he couldn't participate in the Ryder Cup because he's Australian. And it's so weird. You had Lee Jansen win the U.S. Open, you had Bernard Longer win the Masters, and then Azinger won the PGA, and then Jim Gallagher Jr. won the Tour Championship at the Olympic Club on Halloween weekend that year. But I mean, it was so crazy because the next year, I think, is when Greg Norman started to, put all these ideas together to do what they call the President's Cup now, and that's his deal. That's his big deal. And so, in the grand scheme of things, I just wish that the Americans would get a break, just like the international team does, and the European team does every other year. They don't have to play in a team event like that. So you had, and Seve Ballesteros, holy crap, how did I miss him? So Seve was on the European team as well, and he was using a plop putter. And I mean, oh my God, he was using that plop putter, and it was a machine, computer milled, almost like a bullseye putter that was not really a bullseye, it was just a piece of machine, it was a head or whatever. I don't know if it was brass or not. Then it had this shaft that was connected to it in the middle, and it was really I don't know if it was mediocre looking, but it was. There were putters that were out there that were a lot better, I thought. And I think, for Seve to use a putter like that during the Ryder Cup was really something, because he had used the Ping Answer for so many years, and then, Tad Moore was telling me that he made putters for Seve Ballesteros, and he was just a beautiful swinger of the golf club. And then, Olazabal was on there, and those guys paired up, and they had really good success, in the Ryder Cup. And so, I don't know, it was just so fascinating to watch back then. And you had so many guys with Persimmon Woods back then. Faldo and Tom Kite and, Bernard Longer and all. I don't know. It was really crazy. Oh, John Cook was on the American team. It was so interesting to watch. But I mean, this course was. Oh, and by the way, if you watch the last few minutes of that reel, Nick Faldo had a hole-in-one on the 14th hole, and it was just immaculate to watch. I mean, that's a course that made the guys made the course look like mincemeat just because of how on top of their game they were, and it was just immaculate to watch. It was immaculate, and for the Americans to come from behind and win like that, it was just really something. And so that 10th hole, they talk about Bethpage, and it's like, what hole do you think would be a pivotal hole at Bethpage for, big stuff to happen? And I'm like, I don't know. I always thought Bethpage was kind of blah to watch. And I mean, sure, you had Tiger win there. He won the U.S. Open there. Lucas Glover won there, the U.S. Open, and then Koepka won the PGA there. And, that's about it. That's all I know about Bethpage. I don't know anything else about it. It's just this public golf course that's extremely difficult. I mean, it was brought to my attention that if you play Bethpage and do a really bad job of it, you're actually completely. I mean, there are courses you can play that you can play badly and still play, but then if you take that sort of game to Bethpage black and make a mess of it, you are completely you're almost like, get off the course. You're so bad, and it's like, you have no business going to Bethpage black if you can't even do it, if you can't even play the round. I mean, it's like playing, do you play the championship tees or do you play the blue tees at any course? I mean, if you're like a white tee kind of a player and you're playing the black tees on a regular course, you're just going to make life miserable for everybody. But it's like, I guess that's the kind of a course that it is. It's just like, it's a complete course that's just championship black tees or championship tees, whatever you want to call it. And there's no other tee spot that you can tee up and play your shot. It's just nothing but, I don't know if that's true or not. It probably isn't. But it's just if you take that approach on a golf course, it's just like a black tee, championship tee kind of a golf course. So anyway, that's kind of the way I've heard about it. But I mean, the Belfry, this 10th hole at the Belfry was a really pivotal hole because they made it really short, and they made it difficult because they had this creek sort of meander in front of the green, and guys were driving the greens with persimmon drivers. It was only 265 yards, from the tee to the green, and you had almost like they had bedding flower plants in these areas that were supposed to be bunkers, and you saw Colin Montgomery hitting it in one of those spots, and you see him try to get the ball out, and all of this flower debris ends up all over the green, and you need a rake to clean it all up. And of course, he's not going to do that. But I mean, just watching that shot that he hit over the green to make everybody laugh was pretty something. It was pretty. I don't know. I've never seen flowers around a green like that, and I've never seen flowers in play like that, which was really weird. Never seen that. So that was. So yeah, the 10th hole was just. It's just like you don't lay up on that hole. You always have to go for it, and it was very difficult to make the green, and depending on where they cut the cup on that green, it was really hard. I mean, some guys made it look easy, but I mean, it was something else. So I don't know. It was interesting to watch, and it's just fascinating to see what equipment these guys were playing. Just like Ian Woosnam was using a Ping Answer 2 putter when he had all of his success with the Tadmore Max Fly putter. I mean, wow, that was crazy. And he was on that team, and it was really interesting to watch that. It was almost like watching your heroes play golf back in the day when you really worshipped them. It was really something. So I mean, it was a course that I don't really know if anything has happened on that course lately, or in the past few years. I think they've had other Ryder Cups there that I don't remember. But I mean, the Ryder Cup is just something that it's not really on my radar, because it's always, every year the Americans are playing in something. Maybe if the Americans got a break every other year, it would mean a little bit more. But it's like having a golf tournament or an auto race in your town every year, and you say that you might go to it, but you end up not going to it because it's the same thing that happens every year, and you get bored of it. And it's like, why would I go? It's just going to be the same old thing. That's what I think about the American team always playing. If they play in the President's Cup every year, and they play in the Ryder Cup, and it's either the Ryder Cup or the President's Cup. I really think they should make an event for the Europeans and the international team. I really do. I really think that would be worth watching, because you could have it, at any kind of a venue. It's like, what if you had something like that in Japan? What if you had that? Hideki Matsuyama hosts everybody for the whatever you call it, the International European Cup, whatever you want to call it that. It'd be really great if they did that. Maybe, I don't know if they've done that before, but I mean, it's like, why wouldn't they do that? Why wouldn't they? I don't know, because the PGA of America, I guess, wants the money. It's all about money, right? You got to have it somewhere. I have no idea, and I don't really care about the President's Cup. I just don't care. I think it was better. It was better when when the President's Cup was. I mean, no, it wasn't, because you had all this talent that was not being used. Of course. You could have the PGA Tour versus the Liz tournament, whatever, team event. You could do that. No, but then the Americans are playing every year. The Americans are always playing every single year. Give them a break. It's like, why? Why are they doing that? They could be saving their skills for something else, for the next year. It's like, oh, wow, I finally get a break. Leave it up to the PGA Tour, and they'll probably plan a tournament on that weekend. They'll plan a tournament, for late September, that's going on in addition to whatever cup that they're playing. It's really kind of, we always have, it's like we always have golf on every single weekend, but yet you have radio sports talk shows that don't talk about it, but they're talking about sports that are happening during certain times of the year. And golf is happening every weekend of the year somewhere. It always is. So, I don't know. I just thought I'd offer my 2 cents on that. But I just thought it was really interesting to watch those guys play. Watching the ball fly off the face. Constantino Rocco was on the European team as well. And John Cook was on the American team. And I guess they had, there was an issue with Sam Torres having a infected foot from something, and then he wasn't able to play, and then I guess Laney Watkins selected himself to sit out on Sunday, and so with that being done, they actually only got a half. And so, Tom Watson gave the guys a bit of inspiration to go out there and beat the Europeans. And it's just like, I don't know what gets in these guys' heads to just like want to beat the other team. I don't know. Because golf has always been an individual sport. I don't know. I just can't get into that whole team thing. I don't know. Golf has never been a team sport to me. I don't know. It's always been, I don't know. It's just never been presented. I've never participated in anything like that. Maybe if I did, maybe I'd have a different opinion. So, anyway, I don't know. I just thought it was interesting to watch. And one of the things is that's probably one of the only times that the American team has won in Europe and then brought the Ryder Cup home, whatever you want to call it. And it's rare for the Americans to win in Europe. So, it's kind of a given that the Americans would win on their home soil. But then again, you take the Europeans, for them to lose on their home soil was a bit of a huge defeat for them, supposedly. So, I don't know. In recent years, I remember there was this one year where they had it, I think, there was a year that Curtis Strange was picked by the captain to sort of bring the team together or whatever, and then that didn't happen, and then you saw him sitting in his chair with his hand over his head, with his hand over his eyes, whatever, just like completely embarrassed that he was, I don't know, if it was just such a horrible defeat for them. I think it might have been Oak Hill in like 95 or something like that. So, I don't know. It's not really something that's been on my radar, to be perfectly honest. The Ryder Cup is like no big deal to me. Well, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how big it is this weekend at Bethpage. And, you got to think, Bethpage has hosted these major championships, and it's like, has the Ryder Cup been hosted at places that had major championships? I mean, yes, they had it at Whistling Straits. They had the PGA there because, it's a PGA of America sanctioned event. And, what else? What else do you got? They've had it at Quail Hollow. No, I'm sorry, that was the President's Cup. What do they not have at Quail Hollow? Quail Hollow gets used far too much, in my opinion. They're finally going to bring the Ryder Cup to the Olympic Club in 2033. That should be interesting. And I think the only other Ryder Cup that they had in California was down in Palm Springs back in like the 50s, 1955 or something like that. And I'm thinking, whoa. And then they had it up at Portland Golf Club in Portland, Oregon back in the 40s. So it's an event that started in like 1927, whatever, but it's not really that big a deal to me. So, and they did have the President's Cup at Harding Park many, many years ago that I didn't go to that. It may have been 2009 when they had that there, and I never went. So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes at Bethpage. You got the Bryson factor. You got the Scotty Scheffler factor. You have the Rory McIlroy factor. You have the Connor Moore factor, where he's just put out a video this morning that was doing past Ryder Cup guys talking about this year's Ryder Cup. It was kind of funny. So, and then will the Americans be able to hold it together? Will Patrick Cantlay be able to hold his hat on his head to be able to play? Will they get rain? Will the crowd turn on Keegan Bradley? I've heard guys talk about how Keegan Bradley's too young for it, and I'm like, well, we'll see. You go from not making the Ryder Cup team to being the captain, and then, oh my God, then Ray Floyd was on the team as well back in '93, and he was a captain of a Ryder Cup team, and then they brought him back to be a player on the team. I don't know what year he captained a team, but it was so amazing to see him. He was 51 years old, and he was playing the senior tour, and Ray Floyd was on the Ryder Cup team, playing with them in England and helping them win. It was just so great, and it was awesome to see Payne Stewart again. You know, Payne Stewart, after his crushing defeat at Paul Stroll during the U.S. Open, he was there, and, you know, playing alongside Lee Janzen and Paul Azinger. You know, Paul Azinger was his best friend, and he was playing with him. It was so great to see that. And watching Paul Azinger play, and Paul Azinger beat Nick Faldo back then, and that was a precedent that went on to be where they both were captains of Ryder Cup teams, and Paul Azinger won against Nick Faldo, and that was freaking huge. So anyway, there's just so many like elements of that were so brilliant to watch. You know, I just enjoyed watching it. And man, Barry Lane was on the European team. He had such a smooth swing, and he won a match play event many years ago down in Arizona. And it was when they started that match play thing. It was okay to watch, but it ended up being kind of a lame tournament. But he was really cool to watch play golf. So, all right, that's about it. Hope you have a good day. Hope I have a good day, and hope everything goes well at Bethpage this weekend. Let's go America, right? USNA. Take care, folks. Thanks for listening. This is the Knacker Golfers Podcast on the Observant Ear Radio Network.